Hello there, and welcome to Namident Academy. Today, we are going to discuss about the different types of articles published in academic journals. Although there are several different articles that comes with different names in academic journal, but generally, these articles can be classified under five labels. And in this video, we are going to discuss the various type of or the classification of these articles, or what we call papers. First, we have what we call the methodology articles. Then we have a case study. Then we have a short report or letters. Then review papers or article. And the final one is the research papers and articles. Our first group of papers is what we call the methodology articles. In these articles, the author presents new experimental method or test method or bring procedure in the science or in the research field. These papers can present a totally new method of doing things or a modification of a previous existing method to enhance productivity and efficiency. In this kind of papers, from the introduction to the end of the paper, stress is being made about the method, not much of the results, but the method. And in some of these, depending on the field, it goes into rigorous mathematical formulation, rigorous terminologies, and others. And an example of this paper can be, for example, in geophysics, if we say that we know we are using resistivity method, and that we stack metal in the ground fixed to take the data. But then some people brought up what we call movable electrode. So if in the first beginning of this method, the researchers presenting their results will basically talk about the existing method and their modification in bringing movable electronic method. And another example of this, where you are bringing a new form of procedures, is maybe in medicine when people are operating on the heart, and then some people brought a procedure where even you are operating on somebody's heart, but still you will let the person be alive while still operating on that person. So in this kind of thing, the stress here and everything goes into the procedure and comparing it with the existing procedure and the efficiency and the advantages of the new procedure. So that's it for the methodology or method articles. If your research is about modification of a method or bringing a totally new method, then you are going to publish your article as what we call the methodology article. The second article type is what we call the case study. Here, the researchers are presenting specific report on a specific phenomena, and that they go into deep into that particular problem to research all aspects of a particular problem, looking at its behavior, characteristics, and so on and so forth. It is not easy to generalize the findings of a case study because of the way it is. Most of the case studies are totally different from the generalized knowledge available. The aim of case study is to inform and educate and introduce to other researchers the specific way of solving a specific problems. And mostly case study can be a collective case study, a demonstrative case study, explanatory case study, exploratory case study, and so on and so forth. For example, in 2020, during the pandemic, a lot of case study on the COVID-19 virus was undertaken. As we know, before the COVID outbreak, the researchers in clinical research knew very little about what we call about the virus, and hence this kind of research is specific case study of a particular virus where you are studying everything you want to know about that particular virus, which might have or have some particular similarities with other kind of viruses, but then itself is a uniquely different type of virus, which it's very difficult to generalize the finding of that COVID with other viruses. And in example, in our geophysical or in the physical sciences is suppose that during the First or the Second World War, there was a bomb in one particular place, and that has resulted in the excavation of that subsurface rocks, and that it has made, let's say, a hole or a crater, whatever we call it. And then after the war, there is a cleanup. So all the metallic parts, all the cars and everything was cleared and filled in that cavity. And then by years go on, there is a lot of rain, everything settled in that place. And suppose that there is a oil tank spillage somewhere where the oil entered into that environment. So now, this particular environment we are talking about is specifically where you have debris of a bomb particle of maybe nuclear or maybe of other kind of chemicals, and you have some metal, you have some plastic, you have some organic, all aspects. And studying these kind of things with geophysical method or geochemical method or any of the physical method will not be the same as any other environment. And therefore, this kind of thing, studies are classified as case studies. The third type of article published in academic journals is what we term the letter or a short report. A letter and a short report, as the name implies, is a brief communication of results or a finding of a particular research or a field. And generally, it is limited by the amount of words or the volume of the paper. And that mostly is by invitation, as by invitation means that mostly is a solicited article that people are being invited to write it. So, for example, when someone submit a research paper and that the editor finds these results or data very interesting, and that the procedure for the publication of the total research paper might take some time, and that this kind of research are time sensitive. Hence, the editor can invite the author to write a research letter so that these research letters are published in a fast track way, and later a full research paper can be published. So in this way, the paper is aimed at simulating interest of people in writing this kind of in developing the field. So an example that I will give is what I did before in terms of the COVID, the coronavirus. During the coronavirus, there's a lot of research letters or short letters or short reports being published at a speed level, because for we want to save life then. So in a clinical research, for a full letter to be, for a full article to be published, it takes like 4 5 months or 3 months, and that now we are running against time, and we want to understand the virus and bring up a vaccine for that virus. So researchers from all parts of the world are working against time, and hence the editors make it easy for a data and a result to be published, so that individual or group of researchers from other parts of the world can learn from their colleague in the other part to speed up the vaccine creation. And hence, a lot of papers were published in the short or brief communication. So later, a complete research paper were published. That's one example. Another example is at the event of earthquake. Writing a report, a full article based on the characteristics where the shock, the first shock, the second shock, the epicenter, and all those calculations to take that 3 months and 4 months for people to understand the real events and the real extent of this earthquake takes time. So mostly when earthquake occur, within a week, you or a day or even 3 days, you start to see short letters or short report being published of the data or the report on the field to the extent of how the earthquake came about, which fault break and those things. This help to simulate the scientific environment, to dig inside and learn a lot from these particular problems. And it's there in almost all the fields. And again, one example is in the computer sciences, where competition is very high. It takes time for you to publish your results, maybe on artificial intelligence or machine learning, before you realize somebody might have published before. So because of this competition, researchers tend to brief communication to communicate their results and findings or the algorithm first before they write the original research paper. So that's it for the short report or letters. The fourth type of article that we have is review article. Review article are one of the important article in every field of academics. Before a researcher can be able to understand the trend of that field, he need to read a lot of article. So why? So it is easier to find if somebody has already read all those volume of article and summarize something for you to pick it directly and move on. So that's the most important part of a research article, where summary of primary source or research articles are being collected synthesize, and publish. And this is done by leaders in the field, and mostly is through invitation to publish. If you are writing a review paper and then you have not been invited to submit a review paper in any journal, before submitting, you should take time to read in the journal house whether they accept unsolicited review papers because in general review papers are solicited papers that leaders in the field are being invited to give their summary of previous research and the states of the research now and to focus the future of the field. To write a review paper, one need to cite at least about 100 original source or research papers first, or even over, so that the person can cover all aspects of the particular topic under consideration. And for a researcher or a reader, when coming out with or any idea or planning to undertake any research, your first source of information should be a review paper. In there, you can be able to see what has been done, what is going on, and what direction is the field moving. Are they contrasting theory or hypothesis in that field? And then you, as a researcher, what kind of hypothesis or what kind of theory is your plan going to support? Are you going to stand in the middle or move to the left or the right? All these things you can save your time learning by reading review papers. And the format of writing review papers generally varies. The classical one is the summary or the what we call the qualitative type, where you state this, done that, this, done that, this, done. In currently, the trend is the mix of both qualitative and the quantitative, where you will do a review the papers and come out with some information, synthesize the information and mix it together. So that's one important aspect of the research paper, what we call the review paper, is that it gives you a broad idea of the field and narrow it down to the main topic of discussion. And I encourage every researcher, especially young researchers and graduate students, before selecting a topic of research or a thesis topic or article, they should do well to find a review paper to read it. If there are many review papers in the same field, they should read it from the oldest to the newest, and that they can see the trends and they can be able to formulate their proposal or grant writing very well. And this brought us to the fifth and the last type of academic papers, which is the research papers. Research paper or research article is the most common written type of any article, and is published by almost every journal house because most researchers write this kind of papers, and that they come in different way depending different names depending on the journal houses. Some call it research, some call it original article, some call it original paper, research paper, and so on. Here, the author or the researcher report a complete data and results of a particular studies he or her or his group or her group conducted. And that this have the length of the research paper is much longer than the brief communication we discussed earlier. And the researcher reports primarily what they have done compared to the review paper where the writer report what was done by others. And it's generally a very concrete kind of paper. It goes through a lot of scrutiny, a lot of review from peers in the discipline. For more information on the research papers that are being discussed here, I refer you back to my previous videos where I discussed the structure of a research paper and how to write the research paper. You can see the link up here, or you check through the description section. You can see it and you can review it and watch those two videos. It will help you understand everything and how to write those kind of papers that most of us researchers and academics write. So this comes to the end of this video. In this video, we have discussed the various type of research papers that are being published in academic journals, and then how they are being written and who write those papers. And that before you begin thinking of writing or publishing a paper, you can decide in one of the five types which of them fit your taste or which of them fit your needs, and hence you can go on and write your paper. I wish you all the luck in your research, in your future writing, and thank you very much for spending your time with me here, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have not already subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to do so in order to see my future videos. Thank you once again, and see you in my next video. Bye.